Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a city quietly unaware it's about to become the most documented silence in history. You are walking home under warm, late summer lantern light through the streets of Hiroshima. There's a little bit of dust in the air, a little bit of evening sweat on your back, and the smell of charcoal miso and rain-soaked concrete. You're not in a rush, why would you be? It's just another August night in 1945. And you've lived through war rationing blackouts and too many rumors to count. The sky glows with that reddish-pink softness it gets just before it folds into blue. And no one, not the vendor rolling up his cart, not the girl skipping rope near the corner shop, not you knows that this will be Hiroshima's last ordinary sunset. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're still awake, drop your location and what time it is where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk beneath paper lanterns hung on twine strung between telephone poles. They sway a little as if nodding to you. Even in a time of scarcity, someone found enough paper and patience to cut out floral silhouettes, maple leaves, chrysanthemums, even a rabbit if you squint. The evening smells like cooked daikon, faint kerosene, and the unspoken hope that maybe this war will end soon. It's humid, but there's a breeze soft and just cool enough to make your thin cotton shirt stick less to your back. Your geta clack against the pavement with a rhythm you've walked so many times, your feet could do it without you. To your left, a tea house already closed for the night. To your right, a bookstore that still sells poetry, though barely anyone reads it anymore. And ahead the sound of a train chugging away from the station, its whistle swallowed into the hills. You pause at a narrow corner where someone's hung a piece of paper with bold characters. It says, "Tomorrow will be hotter than today. Please avoid long walks." You don't know yet that the ink will outlast the wall it's stuck to. Your sandals click across the short wooden bridge where vendors sometimes leave offerings, tiny paper cranes, coins, or bits of candy that have long since melted. You notice a lone plum pit on the railing. Maybe someone had a late snack. Maybe they just didn't want to throw it on the ground. You pick it up and toss it into the river just for the splash. It barely makes a sound. The water here is shallow and slow, winding past the base of your apartment building like a cat curling around a sleeping body. You glance up. Your floor is the third, window slightly open, a fan of laundry rippling beside it, white shirts, handkerchiefs, a pair of socks you've patched twice. You make a mental note to bring them in before morning. You won't. The building hums like it's exhaling after a long day. Someone upstairs is singing, not loud, not for anyone else, just a quiet lullaby, probably meant for a child already asleep. You can't make out the words, but you don't need to. It's enough just to hear a melody without fear stitched into the notes. The hallway smells of dust and tatami. You pass by the Murakami's door, still marked with a chalk symbol from last week's air raid drill. Someone's drawn a cat beside it. You smile. You never see who does the chalk cats, but you hope it's the boy in 4C. He needs something to hold on to. Your apartment isn't large. It has a sink that drips when it's nervous, a mat that creaks near the center, and a radio that only works if you slap it gently and apologize afterward. You light a small oil lamp and set it by the window. The city stretches out beneath you, warm and ordinary. There's the bathhouse roof. There's the schoolyard. There's the fruit stand with the stubborn banana poster that hasn't changed since 1942. All of it breathing, all of it unaware. You sit by the window. The air presses in thick with August. Below the streetlights flicker. They don't always behave. Power's inconsistent wires are tired, but tonight they hold steady. One light hums. Another buzzes faintly like it's trying to remember a tune. You remember reading somewhere that the human eye adjusts fastest to fading light. You wonder what else you've trained yourself to adjust to. At exactly 7:47 p.m., a police bicycle glides by. The officer nods to you. You nod back. Neither of you speaks. But you both know the curfew's relaxed lately. Maybe that's a sign. Maybe not. You check your watch. Still ticking. Still yours. Still loud in the quiet. From across the courtyard, someone calls out, "Did you feed the goldfish?" You didn't. But it wasn't your turn anyway. You answer, Yes, because tonight lies are just kindnesses wrapped in habit, and no one wants to climb the stairs again. Down the block, the noodle stand finally closes. He's the last to pack up, always is. You hear him whistling as he lifts the canopy, wipes down the counter, and tucks the leftover broth into a tin. He does it all with the rhythm of a man who has done it 1,000 times before and expects 1,000 more. You hope he's right. You step away from the window, turn on the radio. It crackles, of course it does. The announcer says something about a rice shipment arriving 2 days late, then slips into a haiku. Something about autumn leaves and longing. You don't catch the ending. The signal fades, but the static is oddly comforting, like the city sighing beneath itself. You pour a little barley tea, drink half, set the rest on the table. Outside, the lanterns keep swinging. The bridge keeps holding. The night keeps thickening, and the sky just now gathers stars like secrets. You don't look up. Not yet. Because this is just another night. And you are just another person inside it. Dreaming, waiting, living, still. Steam curls up from the noodle bowl, a lazy spiral in the thick August air. You sit on a creaky wooden bench by the corner stand, the one with faded red curtains and chipped lettering that reads Takemoto Soba. He's the only one still open this late, and you're grateful not just for the food, but for the familiarity. The warmth of the broth, the low hiss of boiling water behind the curtain, and the scent of green onions clinging to your sleeves. It's a ritual, one that stitched itself into your bones. Takamoto-san leans out, wiping his hands on a towel that's more patch than cloth now. Hot tonight, he says, as though that's news to anyone. You smile because that's what you do. You always smile when he says that. You always sit in the same spot, and he always ladles just a little extra broth for you because he knows you work late and because your father once fixed his bicycle chain when no one else would. You slurp slowly. There's no rush. Somewhere behind the fabric flap, the radio mumbles an Enka song half drowned in static. A couple walks past holding hands, too young to be engaged, too old to care what anyone thinks. A cart rolls by the wheels, squeaking in protest as the Iceman pedals toward the market square. The city is winding down the way old people do, grudgingly, with one eye still open. From your left, a voice murmurs something about a factory being shut down. You glance over. 3 men in work jackets are hunched around a bowl eating from the same chopsticks like brothers. Another plant, one says. Could be Tokyo next. The others grunt but don't look up. You don't join the conversation. Not because you don't care, because you've run out of words for war. Everyone has. Now the stories are told in sighs and pauses, in how long someone stirs their soup before tasting it, in whether they bother to ask for seconds. The smell of burnt oil wafts in from the alley. Somewhere a cat knocks over a tin lid. Somewhere else a baby lets out a half cry, then fades back into sleep. Takamoto-san steps out again, this time lighting a cigarette with a match that doesn't strike on the first try. You working tomorrow, he asks, not really expecting an answer. You nod anyway. Early shift, you say. He nods back. Bring me some good news if you find it. You almost say deal, but instead you just say, sleep well and tuck your bowl gently onto the wooden rack with the others. He waves a hand as if brushing away flies or worry. Tomorrow, he says, as if that word is still solid. You walk past the stand and glance over your shoulder once. He's still there, smoking, humming, like always. You wonder if he hums while he sleeps. The main street feels emptier now. Shutters closed, lights dimmed, shoes off. Inside each home a small world turns in slow, patient circles. Mothers folding clothes, children brushing teeth, fathers pretending they're not tired. No one looks up at the sky anymore. Air raid sirens have trained you to listen to the ground. And the silence tonight? That's the strange part. Too still, too wide. Like the world is holding its breath, not out of fear, but out of fatigue. You cross the tracks. The last tram is long gone, its metal skeleton parked neatly like a sleeping beetle at the depot. You trail your fingers along the fence as you walk. It's warm, still holding on to the day's sun. You pass a boy chasing a paper balloon that's gotten away from him. It bounces once, twice, and lands in a puddle. He stops, stares, then walks on like it was never his. A woman opens her window above you. You can smell soy sauce and simmered radish. She hums a lullaby. You think it's one your grandmother used to sing, something about fireflies and rivers. You don't know all the words, but it still catches in your throat. You stop by the post box. You've got a letter folded in your sleeve meant for your cousin in Osaka. You wrote it 3 days ago, but the lines felt too soft, too boring to send. You pull it out now. Reread the last sentence. It's been too quiet here lately. I think we're all just waiting for something to happen. You hesitate, then slide it into the box. Not because it's important, but because you don't want it sitting on your table tomorrow. A gust of wind stirs the corner of a newspaper left on the curb. You glance at the headline. It talks about rice shortages, steel production, nothing about peace, nothing about what's already in the air. You pass by a bicycle chained to a tree. There's a wilted lily in the basket and a book with a torn cover. You consider leaving a note. But what would you say? Nice flower, good luck. Instead, you keep walking, because that's what you're best at, moving forward without needing to understand where you're going. As you approach your building again, the light above the entryway flickers once, then steadies. Your neighbor, old Mrs. Kaoru, is standing at her door folding a quilt. She nods to you. You nod back. I saw a falling star tonight, she says. Make a wish. She smiles without teeth. No, just watched it burn. You don't know what to say to that, so you bow and you go inside. The stairwell creaks under your feet. Someone's written peace, soon in chalk on the wall. Someone else has crossed it out. Maybe they'll write it again tomorrow. Maybe not. You close your door softly, slip out of your shoes, and let the bowl of the evening hold you for just a few more moments. Because tonight is warm and quiet, and the broth was good, and you are full of noodles of air, of all the things you'll never know you were holding. Up above the city on the flat rooftop of your apartment building, laundry dances on a string like little ghosts caught mid-escape. The clotheslines stretch between bamboo poles, each shirt and undergarment fluttering with that gentle nighttime rhythm, drying in the last of the summer heat. It's a strange kind of music fabric, flapping wooden poles, creaking, the occasional metal clip squeaking as it shifts. You stand barefoot on the warm rooftop tiles, feeling the day's sun still radiating faintly beneath your feet. You came up here to check on your clothes. That's what you tell yourself. But really it's to breathe. The air is easier up here. You don't have to pretend anything when no one else is around. You can look out at the city without answering questions or dodging worried glances. It's your favorite view in Hiroshima. Rows of tile rooftops sloped and gray chimneys puffing faintly, and beyond them, the black edge of the river shimmering under the dim glow of streetlights. You pause by a long towel clipped near the end of the line. It's not yours. It belongs to the couple downstairs, the newlyweds who always smell like fish oil and seaweed. They laugh too loud and fight too quietly, and once gave you pickled plums without asking your name. Their towel has a hole in it the size of a fist, but they hang it anyway. There's something endearing about that kind of defiance. It flaps like a little act of resistance. You smile. There's a light breeze tonight, enough to make the cloth ripple enough to make your loose sleeve brush your cheek. You tuck it back. Then glance over at the Murata family's laundry. 3 school uniforms hung neatly in descending size order each, with tiny name tags embroidered in white thread. You think the youngest's name is Takashi? He always waves at you from the stairwell. Yesterday he asked if you thought cats dream. You told him probably yes, mostly of birds and mischief. A low thud echoes from somewhere far off, a train door closing. Maybe a crate dropped at the port. You barely notice it. Sounds like that happened all the time. No one flinches anymore. Everyone's ears are tired. A couple rooftops away, someone's listening to the radio. The sound drifts faintly across the alley, tinny and sweet. It's a song from before the war, Umi Yukaba maybe, or something close. The kind of tune that makes old people cry and young people feel nothing at all. You hum along for a moment, not because you know the words, but because the melody fits the air. Below you, someone is shouting, then laughing, then both at once. You peer over the edge, 2 neighbors carrying buckets. They're arguing loudly about whether the Carp baseball team will survive another season if the war ends soon. One insists they'll be champions in 5 years. The other says no one will care about baseball once the Americans arrive. You don't care either way, but you hope they're both wrong. You like the idea that someone somewhere will always care too much about something unimportant. You take down your laundry, slowly folding each item as if it matters. The smell of soap still lingers faintly like rice water and lavender. You shake out your best blouse, the one you wear on festival days. You haven't worn it in months, but you can't bring yourself to store it away. Maybe you'll wear it tomorrow. Maybe not. As you fold the sleeves inward, you catch sight of a tiny burn mark near the hem. You run your thumb over it. It's from that night the neighbors lit sparklers on the roof and you held yours too close. You were laughing, then mouth-wide, eyes squeezed shut. The burn mark is barely visible, but you leave it. A reminder. That joy used to be careless and maybe could be again. The air is cooling now. You lean on the low wall at the roof's edge and stare out toward the horizon. Somewhere beyond the hills, you know there are soldiers and tanks and desperate men drawing lines across maps. But here, right here, there are soft shirts and damp towels and the sound of your heart slowing after a long day. You close your eyes and breathe. Behind you, a door creaks open. It's Mrs. Shinoda from the second floor. She's come up to check her linens, too. She nods at you but doesn't speak. She never does. Not because she's rude, she just spent too many years alone. You both stand quietly for a while. She adjusts a sheet. You fold your last pair of socks. Then she says without looking at you, "Did you hear about the family near the bridge?" You glance at her. No. She sighs. Gone. Moved in the night. Left the futons. You nod, not surprised. People disappear more quietly now. Less fuss. Like a candle burning out on a breezy night. She ties her sheet tighter to the line, then turns back toward the stairs. "Take yours down. Wind'll pick up later," she says before vanishing into shadow. You linger. Longer than you need to. A plane passes overhead. Low. Fast. But alone. And you tell yourself it's one of ours. You always do. Back inside your apartment, you hang your folded laundry over the back of a chair. You open the window wider. Let the breeze move through the room like a ghost too shy to knock. You glance at the clock. Still early. Too early for sleep. But something in your bones feels heavy. Not tired, just aware. Like the city itself is settling in for something it doesn't understand. You lie back on your mat. Watch the ceiling. Let the moonlight catch the edge of your windowsill. And imagine just for a moment that tomorrow's sunlight will look the same as tonight's. Golden, gentle, safe. The ink is still wet. It's not supposed to be. You've been writing this letter for over an hour, and yet somehow the last few characters smudged when you folded the paper. You sigh and press the creased sheet between your palms, trying to warm it dry. The letter is for your cousin Emmy in Osaka. You haven't seen her in 3 years, but she always writes back, even if it's just 3 sentences and a pressed flower tucked in the fold. You imagine her reading your note while sitting by the train station, fanning herself with an envelope, pretending not to be waiting for anyone. You wrote about ordinary things, how your younger brother still refuses to wear socks, how the neighborhood grocer gave you a free cucumber for no reason, how you've started drawing again at night. Nothing important, nothing that would last in history books. But you end the letter with, "Come visit. I miss how loud you are." You don't mention the missing neighbors or the whispers about some new kind of bomb. What's the point? The candle beside you flickers, casting gentle shadows on the wall. The paper, now folded into thirds, looks small in your hand. You tuck it into an envelope, seal it with a dab of rice glue, and write her name with care. Your handwriting isn't perfect, but it's yours. You draw a small cat in the bottom corner of the envelope. She'll smile at that. You place the letter by the door so you won't forget to mail it tomorrow. But you already know you won't forget, because it might be the last thing you ever get to send. Your pencil has worn down to a stub and your wrist is sore. Still, you sit for a moment longer, eyes on the candle, listening to the room breathe. Outside, cicadas whine in bursts like a broken electric fan. The hum is oddly soothing. In the distance, a dog barks once, then twice, then silence. You stand, stretch, and open the window. The air that rushes in is dense with the smell of wood smoke, river water, and something faintly metallic. You lean out just enough to see the rooftops across the alley. One is missing a tile, another has a new wind chime shaped like a crane clinking gently in the night air. Someone down below is singing. It's a girl's voice, soft, maybe drunk, maybe just tired. The melody is unfamiliar, slow, circular. You close your eyes and try to hold on to the tune, but it's too delicate and slips through you like water through fingers. You walk back to your desk. The candle is nearly done. You watch it pool into wax, the last inch of its life melting steadily into the dish below. A moth flutters briefly near the flame, then vanishes into shadow. You think about time a lot these days, about how fast it moves when you want it to stop, and how slow it drags when you're waiting for news. You remember a teacher once saying that time isn't real, it's just how humans cope with change. At the time you thought that was poetic nonsense. Now you wonder if he was right. You pick up your sketchbook, flip past pages of unfinished faces and half-formed buildings. You stop at one, a field of tall grass with a single white shoe in the corner. You don't remember drawing that, but you remember how it felt, the way the pencil tugged, the way your mind floated somewhere between boredom and peace. You flip again. There's a page filled with trains, another with flowers, another with just the words soon written over and over until the ink bled through. You tear that one out, fold it into a square, and throw it out the window. It flutters briefly, illuminated by the street lamp, before vanishing into the darkness like a message the wind might answer. Your younger brother wanders in, rubbing his eyes. His hair is sticking up like a dandelion. He mumbles, "Is it tomorrow yet?" You smile and shake your head. Almost. He climbs into your futon and steals your pillow. You don't argue. He asks, "Did you ever ride an airplane?" You shake your head again. "Not yet." "Do you want to?" You think about it. Really think. About the sky, the speed, the wind. "No," you say. And he laughs. "Me neither. Too noisy." He curls up and hums the same 3 notes over and over like a lullaby only he knows. You reach over and smooth his hair. He falls asleep mid-sentence, whispering something about a cloud shaped like a fish. You sit beside him for a while, not ready for sleep yourself. Your legs are sore. Your shoulders ache. But your mind is sharp, too sharp. You stare at the candle until it gutters out with a soft gasp of smoke. The room shifts. Without the flame, everything feels farther away, like you're underwater, like nothing is quite touching you. You walk back to the window, look down at the letter. It's still there, still waiting, just like everything else. In a few hours, the world will split open. But right now, the letter is folded. Your brother is dreaming, and you are here whole and waiting in a room that still remembers your shape. The air outside is soft and sticky. You step out onto the wooden porch barefoot, the planks warm from a day's worth of sun and still carrying the faint scent of varnish and dust. Somewhere behind you, your brother snores, gently buried in your futon like a kitten in laundry. And in front of you, just crickets and cicadas calling out into the night like they're auditioning for something. You sink slowly onto the porch step, cradling a chipped ceramic cup of mugicha roasted barley tea, lukewarm now, but still better than nothing. The earthy bitterness clings to your tongue. Your father is already out here, sitting cross-legged in his usual spot shirt, unbuttoned halfway down a newspaper folded in his lap that he hasn't turned a page of in 20 minutes. He nods to acknowledge you. Doesn't speak. He never speaks first at night. That's the rule you two settled into some time after your mother died. In the evenings, everything is unspoken. Just shared glances, quiet breathing, and the sounds of an insect world completely unbothered by the headlines. "Hot one," you finally say, which isn't necessary. He grunts. "Could be worse. We still have ice." It's true. There's a half-block left in the box inside. Your neighbor downstairs lost theirs when the cart didn't make it that morning. She was so upset she cried in the courtyard, accusing the delivery man of favoritism and maybe even theft. Your father just shook his head and said, "People unravel in heat." You sip your tea and try to listen past the insects to the deeper silence underneath, the one that fills the gaps between the buzzing between the breaths. There's a tension in it, like the city is trying to decide whether it's holding on to something or letting go. A firefly drifts by, slow and lazy, blinking like a lullaby in Morse code. You watch it dance above the garden for a few seconds before it disappears behind the camellia bush. Your father unfolds his newspaper finally, makes a show of it. But he's not reading it. You know because he's holding it upside down. You don't call him out on it. You just let him pretend. Maybe he doesn't want to read about troop movements or shortages or new protocols for fire drills. Maybe he just wants to feel like the world is still made of paper and ink instead of ash and guesses. School still going, he asks. Mm-hmm. He nods slowly, then squints at something out near the garden. Matsuko's kids broke a window again, he mutters. You frown. They don't live here anymore. He pauses, then lets out a long breath. That's right, he says. They moved. Last spring, last winter. He says nothing for a while after that. You refill both your cups from the thermos, careful not to splash. Your father reaches for his cup and says, You were 7 when we moved here. Remember? You nod. The porch was smaller then. You used to sleep out here in summer and complain about ghosts. You smile at that. Still do. He chuckles once the sound's short and dry like a cough dressed up as a laugh. You wanted to be a bridge builder. You blink. I did. He nods. You said you'd build one all the way to Korea, to find your pen pal. You try to recall the memory, but it only comes back in fragments. A girl named Hyejin, folded letters, bright stamps, and a drawing of a turtle you once mailed her. You wonder where she is now, or if she even remembers your name. Your father shifts and cracks his knuckles. They'll come soon, he says almost absently. You look at him. The Americans. He doesn't answer, just stares into the darkness like it might offer a different future if he keeps looking hard enough. Then he says, Do you think we'll know when it happens? You don't reply, because you both know the answer is no. A gust of wind rolls in and knocks over the bamboo wind chime. It clinks hollowly against the railing. Your father steadies it with a hand, and you see how thin his fingers look now, how the bones stand out like delicate scaffolding. You reach over and cover his hand with yours. He doesn't move, but he doesn't pull away either. From somewhere in the neighborhood, a kettle whistles, then stops. Someone coughs, then stops. The silence returns. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that presses against your skin like wet cloth. Your tea is nearly gone now. The cup is warm in your hands, but not comforting. You think about the letter by the door, the socks you forgot to bring in, the art book you never finished, the photograph under your pillow, your mother in a summer kimono, smiling so broadly the camera lens blurred a little. You don't want to go to sleep. Because if you sleep, tomorrow will come, and something about tomorrow feels brittle, like it won't hold. Your father stands slow and stiff. Get some rest, he says. Morning'll come whether we want it or not. You nod. He disappears inside. You stay just a little longer, watching the porch, listening to the insects, feeling the night thicken, and wondering what it means to be awake in a moment like this when everything is still intact but already slipping. The net drapes around you like a soft gauze curtain from some dream you only half remember. You're lying on your futon now, one foot barely tucked under the thin blanket, your arm thrown above your head. The room smells like tatami-cooled skin and that faintly floral talc your grandmother used to pat behind your ears when you were younger. The mesh of the mosquito net brushes against your fingertips whenever you shift. It's just close enough to feel, not close enough to matter. Your brother is already snoring again, though you wouldn't call it snoring really. It's more like a rhythmic puffing, as if he's quietly blowing on something invisible in his sleep. His legs are splayed in that chaotic tangle. Only small children can manage his face tilted just enough for one cheek to smush into the pillow. He looks smugly content, as though dreaming of victory in a game he's making up on the spot. You reach across the futon and tug a corner of the mosquito net tighter just in case. No one likes waking up with a swollen cheek from a hungry night mosquito. Last week he got bitten and declared war on all bugs forever, made a little banner and everything. The moonlight slips through the window like it's sneaking in. It paints the walls in slow, pale gradients, soft enough to ignore if you try, but insistent enough to keep you awake. From beyond the paper-thin shoji wall, someone drops a cup. You hear the soft clatter of porcelain, followed by a sigh. The neighbors again. They're probably packing. or arguing, or doing that quiet, heavy kind of cleaning people do when they know they might not return. Your little brother shifts and mumbles, "Why do ghosts live in fans?" You blink. What he exhales rolls onto his side and adds, "The ceiling fan spins too fast. That's why ghosts get stuck." You don't answer. You just watch the slow spin of the old paper fan above you hanging by a thread and not moving at all. In this tiny slice of night, you remember a story you used to love, a myth about a woman who weaves the night sky. Every evening she sews stars into place, stitching the darkness into fabric so it won't unravel. Her hands never rest. And when she's done, she curls inside the folds of the sky and sleeps just long enough to dream of more stars. You whisper that story now softly for no one but yourself. Just the first few lines. Just enough to let the cadence carry you toward sleep. But it doesn't come. Not yet. There's a noise. Low and distant, like a truck maybe, but not quite. It rumbles for a second, then stops. You wait for the follow-up, another growl, a thump, a siren, but nothing comes. Your brother sits up suddenly, blinking hard. "What was that?" You sit up too, probably nothing. He frowns. "Are they dropping bombs again?" You shake your head, lying without really meaning to. Too quiet for bombs. He flops back down. "Okay, wake me if we die." You chuckle once bitterly. "Sure." You lie down again, arms folded under your head, staring up at the mosquito net as it shimmers faintly in the light. The truth is, you don't know what bombs sound like anymore. The air raid drills have come so often they're like fire drills at school. Just another excuse to leave class and crouch in the hallway. The grown-ups don't panic anymore. Even the children have learned to count the seconds between the siren and the silence. Still, you notice how the wind stopped, how the cicadas paused, how even the cat 2 houses down hasn't made a sound. You consider getting up, writing another letter, drinking more tea, staring at the moon until it feels less real. But you stay where you are, cocooned inside the net, tangled up in your own warmth and the warm breath of the boy beside you. Your brother suddenly whispers, "Do you think we'll be okay?" You close your eyes and answer yes, because he needs to sleep, because you need him to sleep, because your answer is the thread holding this whole night together. A bit later, the crickets resume. One starts chirping by the window, a bold little soloist. Then another joins in, and soon the symphony returns indifferent and relentless, as if the world didn't just hold its breath. You let your eyes close. You listen to the breathing beside you. You imagine the mosquito net is a tent, and you're camping in the mountains where everything smells like pine, and no one talks about the war. You imagine snow. You imagine your cousin's letter arriving in the morning full of pressed violets and typos. You imagine the world doesn't change overnight, but mostly you hold on to the silence between questions, because in that silence, for just a little longer, you are still here, whole, safe, asleep, or close enough. You wake just before dawn because of a sound. Not a crash, not a siren, just a soft, steady ticking like rain that forgot how to fall. It takes a moment to orient yourself. The mosquito net's edges ripple ever so slightly as you sit up, not from wind, but from your own breath brushing against the air. The sound is coming from across the alley. You slide open the window and rest your elbows on the sill, letting the cool morning air wash over your arms. The horizon hasn't broken yet, but the sky is no longer black. It's that in-between gray, the kind that might hold a storm or a song depending on the hour. And there, framed perfectly in the window opposite yours, is the little clockmaker's shop. You've walked past it every day for most of your life. It's a skinny, cramped place wedged between a fish stall and a building no one ever really figured out the purpose of. The sign above the shop has lost so many letters it just reads, "Ox." You and your brother once joked that it sold rocks for fancy people. Imported pebbles, you said, giggling. But now, in this pale, not-yet morning, you see the old man inside, already awake, already moving. He's hunched over a workbench, his back bent like a comma, his hands working on something tiny, probably a wristwatch. You can't hear anything from this distance except that muffled ticking. All around him, shelves of clocks blink and beat out their own slightly different times. One says 4:49. Another insists it's 4:53. A third seems to have stopped entirely, frozen forever at 2:08. Time doesn't move the same way in that shop. It jostles and skips and stutters. But the man just keeps working, tuning and tightening, like he's trying to fix the day before it starts. You watch him for a while. There's something oddly comforting about it. In a world full of air raid sirens, missing cats, and unread letters, here is one man obsessively winding a timepiece, making sure at least one small thing stays on track. You imagine going down there, knocking gently and asking if he needs help. You'd offer to hold the tiny screws, maybe sweep the floor, maybe just sit in silence while he works. But you don't. You just watch. Behind you, your brother shifts under the futon and mumbles something about fish. A moment later, he lets out a small fart and giggles in his sleep. The room still smells like tatami and barley tea. You turn back to the shop. The old man pauses. He looks up slowly, like someone who's just remembered he had a dream and isn't sure whether it was good or bad. Then he reaches for a different clock, a tall one. A grandfather-style piece with pendulums and brass handles and a small paper flower tucked into the base. You've seen it in the window before, though it's always been slightly out of sync with the others. The minute hand twitches like it can't quite decide on its direction. The old man adjusts something at the base, steps back, and waits. Nothing happens. For a full 10 seconds, the clock stands silent. Then it chimes. Once. Softly. A single low note that doesn't even reach you fully, just a ghost of a sound swallowed by the pre-dawn air. But it's enough. Enough to make you shiver, though the breeze isn't cold. Enough to remind you that time is always moving, even when it stutters, even when it lies. Historians still argue whether Hiroshima was chosen days or hours in advance, whether it was a calculated choice, a coin toss, or just the result of a clear sky forecast. But you just know it's morning. You stretch your arms. Your spine cracks in 3 places, which is either satisfying or alarming. You leave the window open. The clockmaker is back to work now, bent over something new, utterly unaware of what's flying toward all of you from so far away. You tiptoe out of the room, step over your brother's book bag, avoid the floorboard that squeaks. The hallway is still dim, but a sliver of pink light is beginning to edge its way through the kitchen curtains. You glance at the letter you wrote last night. It's still by the door. You place a rock on top of it, a small, smooth one from the garden that your brother painted with a smiley face last summer, just in case. You boil a little water, careful not to clatter the kettle. Your father isn't up yet, or maybe he never really went to sleep. You steep a fresh cup of tea, this time with a sliver of ginger, and you carry it back to the porch. The sun hasn't risen, but the crickets have stopped. It's as if they've handed off the shift to the birds now, who are just beginning to chirp, tentative and awkward, like musicians tuning up before a concert no one bought tickets to. You sip the tea. You feel it settle in your belly like an anchor. Across the alley, the clockmaker turns off his light. You stare at the now dark window and think for no reason at all about the phrase borrowed time. How odd it is that time can be borrowed, as if someone else owns it, as if you'll be expected to return it eventually with interest. You wonder if you're late, or early, or exactly where you're supposed to be. The street lamp flickers once, then dies. The sky is getting brighter. You don't know it yet, but you have less than 2 hours before the world reshapes itself entirely. But for now, there's tea, there's ticking, and there's you. The sewing basket is right where you left it, tucked beneath the low table, half in shadow, next to the pile of folded fabric and the small jar of mother-of-pearl buttons that never seems to stay shut. You crouch to pull it out, brushing a strand of hair behind your ear, and run your fingers along the worn handle. The wicker squeaks softly. This is the same basket your mother used when she hemmed sleeves and reinforced collars. You can almost see her fingers ghosting over the spools inside. You carry it over to the light filtering through the open shoji panel and ease yourself down onto the mat. There's no rush. The house is still quiet. Your brother's still wrapped up in sleep, and your father's silence suggests either deep dreams or a very still cup of tea somewhere on the porch. You lift the half-finished wedding dress out of the basket, carefully shaking out the creases. It's ivory, or it was meant to be. Now it's more the color of clouds-thinned milk with just the faintest blush of age. The bodice is nearly complete with delicate pleats stitched in by your neighbor's trembling hands. Her fingers have grown stiffer in recent months, the work slower. That's why she asked for help. You were flattered, of course, nervous too. She's trusting you with her daughter's future. You thread the needle slowly, your hands steadier than your thoughts. It's hard not to think of the ceremony planned for next week. You picture the bride's face, her shy smile, the way she tugged at her sleeves when you measured her. She wants the sleeves long to cover the burn scars on her arms from an accident years ago. Not from war, just boiling water and a moment of distraction. Funny how often tragedy begins with just a moment of distraction. You begin sewing. The rhythm settles in pull, loop, tuck, draw. You lose yourself in it the way you always do. The rest of the world becomes soft-edged. The sounds outside, pigeons cooing, someone wheeling a cart, a bicycle bell, blur into white noise. The fabric is warm from the sun that's now fully risen. Your stitches are small, neat, precise. Not perfect, but good enough to hold. You pause to tie a knot and glance out the window. The clockmaker's shop is still dark. For some reason that bothers you more than it should. You shift to adjust your posture and spot something on the hem. A small stain. Faint, but there. It might wash out, but it might not. You consider redoing that whole section. You probably should. But your hands hesitate. Because something tells you there might not be time. You frown, surprised by your own thought. Then shake it off and pick up the needle again. Historians still argue whether the people of Hiroshima sensed anything that morning, some shift in air pressure, some flicker in the sky, some change in the quality of silence. There are reports of animals acting strange, a few stories about radios cutting out, but nothing certain. You, however, just feel a tightness in your chest. You tell yourself it's just the heat, or bad posture, or maybe the pressure of doing right by someone else's wedding day. You glance again at the dress. It's beautiful, really. Simple but graceful. The kind of dress someone wears when they believe in a future. You work another row of stitches, then another, and another, until you reach the neckline. The beads she wanted haven't arrived yet. You were supposed to pick them up tomorrow. You try to picture them, tiny white pearls, just enough to line the collar like a row of hopeful punctuation marks. You wonder if the shop will be open. You wonder if you'll make it there. You wonder if there will even be a wedding, and then you push the thought aside, because some things don't deserve space in your head. Your brother stumbles into the room, scratching his belly and yawning like a lion who slept through a battle. He sees the dress and freezes. Can I touch it? No. Just one finger. Absolutely not. He sighs dramatically and slumps beside you, pressing his face into your shoulder. You're mean, he mumbles. I'm focused, you correct. Same thing. You let him sit there while you keep sewing, the warmth of him seeping through your sleeve. He smells like sleep and soap and yesterday's sunlight. He hums a tune you don't recognize off-key, but earnest, like he's composing it just for this moment. You stitch another beadless inch and feel a sting in your finger. You've pricked yourself, just a dot of red. You suck your finger instinctively and chuckle. Guess I'm human, you say aloud. Your brother snorts, barely. Later, when the dress is folded neatly and placed back in the basket, you sit in the center of the room and stretch your back. Your brother's already moved on now, pretending to be a general leading troops across the tatami, using slippers as tanks and a bamboo broom as his sword. You watch him for a moment, letting the quiet joy of his nonsense fill the cracks inside you. Then you whisper to yourself, please let her wear it. Not dramatically, not with tears, just as a gentle, whispered favor to no one in particular, because someone should hear it, even if no one answers. You're sitting on the porch again now, elbows on your knees, sipping the last of the ginger tea that's gone lukewarm in the cup. The day is properly awake, no longer drowsy or dreamy, just present. A few clouds drift lazily in the east, high and wispy like brushstrokes on a canvas someone forgot to finish. The light is sharper now, but not harsh. It has that peculiar golden edge that makes every surface seem slightly more honest. Even the dust looks beautiful in this light. Your neighbor's radio crackles to life 2 doors down. You can't quite make out the words, but there's a rhythm to the announcer's voice, a confidence that makes it sound like nothing unusual is happening. That's the thing about radios, they always act like the world is under control, even when it's quietly tipping sideways. You reach into your pocket and pull out the air raid whistle. You'd forgotten you had it with you. It's a dull metal thing dented slightly from where you dropped it last week during a drill. You turn it over in your fingers. Cold. Heavy for its size. You never actually blow into it anymore. Not because you don't believe it's necessary, just because the sound is awful. It feels like waking everyone up for a nightmare that's already begun. From the street below comes the low grumble of a truck. Not unusual. Probably delivering produce or moving crates. Still, it makes your fingers tighten around the cup just a little. And then, as if on cue, the air shifts. Not the wind, though, that too stills, but something deeper, like the atmosphere is listening. And then the siren begins. It's long and low, the kind that starts in your chest before your ears even register it. You freeze for half a second, less fear, more resignation. It's not your first, probably not your 15th. They all sound the same after a while. You stand slowly and go back inside. Your brother is already on his feet, holding his pillow like a shield. "Drill," he asks. You nod, though you're not sure. He doesn't argue, just follows you to the hallway. You grab the small bag by the door, the one that's been packed for weeks. A bottle of water, some rice crackers, a photo of your mother folded inside a cloth napkin. Essentials. And a little lucky bell that doesn't really chime anymore unless you shake it too hard. You open the back door and pause, because no one else is rushing. In fact, everything looks normal. The vendor down the street is still stacking boxes of radishes. An old woman is sweeping her steps with deliberate calm. A child rides by on 2 small bicycle legs, pedaling madly, and the siren stops. You stand there blinking. Your brother tugs your sleeve. "So, we go or not?" You look up. The sky is mostly clear. No planes, no dots, no engines. Just that unsettling pause. That quiet when you expect noise. That breath the world seems to be holding. Historians still argue whether people in Hiroshima knew what was coming. Whether there were whispers, rumors, instincts. But the records are full of stories like this morning's that began in hesitation and ended in silence. You step back inside. An hour passes. The siren doesn't return. You and your brother sit by the window watching the alley. He's drawing something in the dirt with a chopstick, some kind of dragon with too many legs. You keep looking up as if the sky might confess its secrets. And that's when you hear the distant shout. A woman's voice. You can't make out the words, but it's high-pitched. Not fear exactly, but urgency. Then another shout. Then silence. You lean forward. Still nothing in the sky. Still no new sounds. But something is coming. You don't know how you know. You just do. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic. It's just a tightening of the air. A sudden knowing. The way birds scatter before a storm. The way some part of you recognizes the shape of the future a split second before it arrives. Your brother sighs and leans on your arm. "I'm hungry," he says. You don't answer. Because suddenly you can smell it too. A strange heat. A taste of metal. Like the world has been split just slightly, and air from another place is leaking through. You hold your breath. For no reason. Then you exhale and stand. Because if this is the moment, you don't want to meet it sitting down. You don't even realize you've grabbed his hand until you're halfway across the tatami. Your little brother stumbles as he tries to keep up the wooden floor too smooth beneath his bare feet. But he doesn't complain. He just clutches your fingers tightly, eyes wide, his earlier dragon drawing forgotten. You head toward the rear of the house, not the front door. Not the porch, but the narrow side path that leads to the well. The well isn't deep. It's not even yours. It belongs to the family next door, the one with the baby who cries at sunset, and the father who still whistles while sweeping. But your father said once that in a real emergency, you'd head there. "Stone walls are thicker than dreams," he said. And you remember it now, not because it makes sense, but because it sounded like something that should. The air grows thicker with each step. like walking through honey. The birds have gone completely silent now. Even the crows that usually scream and squabble over scraps are nowhere to be heard. Not a wing in sight. You stop for one moment, just one, at the threshold of the back gate, and glance over your shoulder. The house is still there. The dress is still folded inside. The teacup still sits by the door, a little smudge of ginger left in the bottom. And then the light changes. It doesn't explode. Not at first. Not the way you expected. It blooms. A white brighter than white, with a soundless violence that presses through your skin before your ears can catch up. It isn't even heat at first, just force. Like a hand shoving every particle of you backward while also tugging the earth out from under your feet. You're flying. No. You're falling. No. You're both. And for one brief, perfectly sharp instant, you see the shadow of the laundry pole on the ground before it's swallowed. And then everything is gone. They say some people didn't feel a thing, that it was instant, that the light just took them as if they'd been drawn into a flashbulb and never returned. But you do feel something. It's not pain, not yet. It's confusion, like waking up in a stranger's house. You're no longer standing. You're not sure if you're even upright. There's something sharp pressing into your side, and your ears are screaming a high, relentless note like a whistle made of metal and ash. You can't see anything, just brown and red and white and a softness where there should be walls. You try to speak, nothing comes out. You try again, and then there, a sound. Barely. It's your brother. He's still holding your hand. You squeeze it. It's weak. His hand is shaking. You can't tell if it's fear or something worse. You force your mouth to move. I'm here. That's all you can manage. And then slowly, shapes begin to emerge from the brightness. Twisted wood, a roof beam, someone's shoe. You try not to look too hard. Some things aren't meant to be seen twice. Historians still argue about the exact sequence of events, how long the flash lasted, what the first moments felt like. Eyewitness accounts conflict. Some say the air was pulled from their lungs. Others recall the silence more than the blast. But most remember the light. That terrible blooming light. You lie still. Dust falls like snow. Your brother coughs once, then twice. You pull him toward you, curling your body around his. Your ribs scream in protest. You don't care. You cradle him the way your mother cradled you during the first air raid drill. Whispers in his hair. Just rest. Just breathe. Just listen. Outside the city is no longer a city. The alley is rubble. The clockmaker's shop is gone. The ox sign has vanished with it. But the ticking, you hear ticking, somewhere close. Some small, stubborn mechanism still counting time. Even now, even here. And for some reason, that's what breaks you. Not the silence, not the heat, but the fact that something still ticks. You don't cry. There's no time for that. You're too busy listening to your brother's breath, to your own heartbeat, to the brittle, ghost-like creaks of what used to be your street. He shifts in your arms and mutters, "Is it over?" You don't answer, because it isn't. Not really. This was just the first second of a very long morning. You feel for the edge of what was once the garden wall and begin to crawl. Not fast, not brave, just forward. Because something inside you insists that if you can make it to the well, if you can just reach that one spot where the stones still hold, then maybe, just maybe, you'll still have a place in this world. Even if it no longer remembers your name. You drag your body forward inch by inch, feeling every splinter, every grit of ash-stained dust grind against your skin. Your arms ache. Your knees are raw. But your brother is still beside you, alive, breathing, whimpering, but holding on. The alley you once knew as narrow and warm, flanked by hanging laundry and the scent of pickled vegetables, is gone. Now it's a canyon of broken wood and steaming metal. You can't tell where one house ends and another begins. Roof tiles are scattered like fallen teeth. A wheelbarrow lies upturned in a tangle of wire and cloth. And everywhere everything is the same gray-beige color of ash and silence. You squint against the haze, trying to orient yourself. The well should be just a few meters to the right, but the fence that once marked the neighbor's yard is flattened, and the cherry tree that shaded the path has been sheared in half, bark charred, leaves incinerated. It smells like scorched oil and wet stone, and something else. You refuse to name it. Your brother coughs again. It's wet this time. You look down and see his lips trembling, his hair caked with soot and tiny flecks of glass. "I want to go home," he whispers. You nod even though the house is gone. "We will you lie because sometimes that's the only thing to do." You sling his arm over your shoulder and crawl together through what used to be a garden. There's a patch of ground that still holds the ghost of a stepping stone half buried in debris. You take that as a sign, an echo of order. And there, yes, just beyond the collapsed wall is the well, still standing, still round and solid, the only thing in your world that hasn't fallen. You collapse beside it, the stones warm beneath your hands. The wooden lid is crooked, scorched along one edge, but intact. You pull it aside and peer down. The water glints faintly at the bottom, cool, still. You lean over it and breathe in the damp, earthy smell. It's the first clean thing you've smelled in what minutes, hours, a century. You tear a strip from your sleeve and dip it down with the frayed end of a bamboo rod. When you press the damp cloth to your brother's forehead, he flinches, but then sighs. The first calm breath he's taken since the light came. Historians still argue about where survivors fled first, some toward the rivers, others to open fields, a few into the mountains. But nearly all mention wells, not just for water, but for the illusion of shelter. Something round, something rooted, something older than the bomb. You and your brother sit by that well for what feels like an hour. Occasionally you both flinch at distant crashes, walls still collapsing, fires, blooming metal shrieking like it's alive. But here in this little circle of stone, the world has narrowed. You notice the sounds more keenly. A cicada, a sob, something that might have once been a dog, now silent again. And then you hear footsteps. You freeze. Not military boots, not screaming, just footsteps, slow dragging, uncertain. You peek over the edge of a toppled beam and see a woman moving through the rubble. Her kimono is scorched at the hem, her sandals missing. Her left hand clutches a wrapped bundle to her chest, a baby maybe, or groceries, or both. Her eyes are wide but unfocused. She stumbles once, catches herself, and keeps walking, passing by without a word. You almost call to her, but something in her expression stops you, like she's walking through a dream she hasn't decided to wake from yet. You and your brother say nothing. There's nothing to say. The heat begins to build again. Not the blinding flash, but a slow, cruel heat, like the entire city is starting to boil from beneath the ground. The well water stays cool, and you both take turns sipping it through cloth. You begin to hear more voices now, crying, calling out names. One voice repeating the same syllable over and over again. Aki, Aki, Aki. You never hear a response. At one point your brother asks, "Did it happen everywhere?" You hesitate. "No," you say. "Just here." You want to believe that somewhere beyond the haze and ash the world is still turning normally. Children are still going to school. Radios are still playing cheerful jingles. A woman somewhere is still finishing her wedding dress. You cling to that, because if this is the whole world now, then there's nothing left to crawl toward. You decide to move. The well was a pause, but not a finish. You tie the cloth back around your brother's arm, tuck your bag against your ribs, and begin the slow shuffle toward the north. You remember vaguely that there's a bridge that way, or used to be. Maybe there will be people. Maybe help. The streets are unrecognizable. The landmarks that used to define your neighborhood, the shrine gate, the red awning of the tofu shop, the crooked lamppost are all gone or twisted beyond memory. Still you walk. Each step pulls a groan from your bones. Your brother hums again under his breath, the same melody as this morning, that clumsy off-key tune that you now realize was the last song of your old world. A piece of paper flutters down from nowhere. It lands at your feet. You pick it up. It's a page from a children's book, half of a cartoon tiger mid-leap, chasing something that's no longer on the page. You fold it carefully and place it in your pocket, because even now pieces of the past are still falling, and you're not quite ready to let go of them all. Your feet ache. The soles of them feel like they've been peeled, and your sandals, what's left of them, flap against the charred earth with every sluggish step. You're not even sure if you're still on the street or simply walking across what used to be someone's roof. The world has flattened. Everything is dust and bones and twisted shapes that were once furniture carts, bicycles, balconies. It's all jumbled together now like a child's toy box after an angry fit. Your brother clings to your side, one arm around your waist, the other pressed to his chest. You don't know if he's protecting a wound or his heart. Maybe both. He hasn't spoken since the well. Occasionally you feel him trembling, or is it you? Your legs carry you forward on pure instinct, no plan, no direction, just away. Away from the epicenter, away from where the world ended. Up ahead something rises out of the haze. A shape. A building, no, a shell of one. The walls are warped inward like paper left too close to a candle, but some of the metal frame remains. A school, maybe. Or a post office. You move toward it, half hoping for shelter, half hoping someone inside will tell you what to do. Inside, it's cooler. Not by much, but enough to make your shoulders drop a little. You help your brother sit down on what might once have been a piano bench. There's no piano, just keys scattered across the floor like teeth. A bird flutters through one of the shattered windows, then disappears again. The world is still moving. Somehow. Somewhere. You lean your head against the wall and exhale slowly. The air smells like wet cement and burnt cloth. You close your eyes for a moment just to rest them, but immediately open them again when the dark behind your eyelids is worse than what's outside. Something scrapes nearby. You freeze. Then a voice, low, raspy, human. A man. You can't see him, but he calls out, anyone here?" You hesitate, then answer, "Here." The shuffling gets closer. He emerges from a side hall, hunched and soot-covered, one eye swollen shut. His uniform suggests a mailman, though it's hard to tell through the filth and blood. He looks at you, then at your brother. "You're walking?" he asks, voice incredulous. You nod. He lets out a breath that sounds like a laugh and a sigh tangled together. "North is worse," he says. "Try west, toward the river." You nod again as if you were already planning that. Then he says the strangest thing. "There's a tree still standing, a persimmon, near the water. If you see it, rest there." A persimmon tree. It feels like nonsense. But nonsense is better than nothing. You thank him. He disappears back into the smoke, muttering about someone named Tanaka. Or maybe he was talking to Tanaka. You're not sure. You help your brother back to his feet, adjust your grip beneath his arm, and begin the journey again. Toward the river. Toward a tree. The city changes again as you walk. The rubble gives way to puddles. Steam hovers above the ground like fog clinging to skin. You pass a bicycle fused to a lamppost. A row of rice bowls melted together on a stone shelf. A cat curled beneath an overhang, perfectly still. You don't check if it's breathing. You've learned not to check. Your brother breaks the silence. "I dreamed about this," he says. You glance at him. "This morning, in my dream. There was a big light, and the sky was loud, and you were crying. You don't know how to answer, so you say, 'I'm not crying.' He shrugs. You were. Historians still argue whether dreams the night before held any warning. Some survivors claimed eerie premonitions. Others remembered nothing but quiet. But even in the aftermath, people searched for meaning in hindsight, trying to stitch together signs they'd missed. You think of the unfinished wedding dress, of the beads you never picked up, of the tea you didn't finish. You wonder if there are ghosts walking behind you now, gathering up those threads. You reach the river just before dusk. It's wider than you remember. The banks are thick with people, most silent, some moaning, many unmoving. Bodies float gently in the water. You avert your brother's eyes, pressing his face into your shoulder. A soldier stands on the bridge, waving people away from the far side. His mask is soaked, his uniform torn. He doesn't speak, just gestures, go back, go west. You move along the riverbank, eyes scanning the haze, and then impossibly you see it. A tree. A single tree. Charred and cracked, but upright, and somehow still bearing fruit. 3 orange persimmons cling stubbornly to the branches, swaying slightly in the breeze. You stop, stare, then sink to the ground beneath it. It's not shelter. It's not salvation, but it's a place. And right now, that's everything. Your brother leans against you, both of you breathing together beneath the last living thing in sight. He reaches up and plucks one of the fruits. It comes loose easily. He turns it over in his hands, then says, "It's warm." You nod. Everything's warm now. He takes a bite. You want to tell him to wait, to wash it, to do something civilized. But nothing's civilized anymore. So you watch him chew in silence. And after a long moment you say the words that have been rattling in your chest since the light bloomed. "I'm sorry." He doesn't ask for what, just leans closer and says, "Me too." And together, beneath the scorched fruit of the last persimmon tree, you both wait for nightfall. Nightfall doesn't descend so much as settle. A heavy, silent blanket laid over a city with nothing left to say. The sky dims, yes, but not like it used to. No soft purple or gradual blue. Just a graying, then a darkening until everything looks the same shade of ash. There are no stars tonight. The smoke won't allow it. You sit beneath the persimmon tree, knees drawn to your chest, your brother curled at your side. The fruit he bit into earlier sits half-eaten in his lap, sticky and warm. You keep glancing at it, not because you're hungry, but because it's absurd. This bright, stubborn piece of life glowing orange against a backdrop of devastation. He falls asleep quickly. You do not. You listen to nothing, to everything. Somewhere nearby someone coughs. Not a soft, healthy cough. The kind that reaches from the gut. A reminder that what didn't kill people instantly is still lurking in their lungs, on their skin, in the water. Somewhere farther, wood collapses with a groan. Fire, probably. Still spreading, still hungry. And somewhere in the distance a woman is singing, off-key, gently. Like a lullaby she once knew but now can only hum through grief. You rest your head against the tree trunk. The bark is rough. It smells like smoke and fruit and something else you can't place, something ancient. You think of all the times you walked by this very tree without noticing it. It had always been just another piece of background. Now it's a shrine, or maybe a witness, or maybe just a tree that happened to be lucky. Historians still argue why some trees survived the blast. Theories abound: shockwave angles, underground root systems, sheer randomness. But survivors remember them less as biological anomalies and more as sacred markers, living proof that something resisted. You're not religious, but tonight this tree feels like the only God you've ever seen up close. You doze, you wake, you doze again. Time becomes elastic, a shifting smear of dream and memory. You see your mother holding a lantern. You see your brother's toy boat floating in a tub. You see the sun rising over the city as it always used to. And then you wake to footsteps again. This time they're lighter, cautious. You lift your head and squint. It's a girl, no older than 16, hair singed at the ends, kimono sleeves torn. She's barefoot, carrying something wrapped in cloth. No, not carrying. Dragging. You realize as she comes closer that it's a body. A younger sibling, perhaps. Or a friend. Or just someone she didn't want to leave behind. She doesn't notice you at first. Then she does. Her eyes meet yours. You don't speak. There's nothing to say. She walks past, sits down on the opposite side of the tree, and says nothing. Together, you wait. 3 survivors under a tree no one expected to still be standing. Your brother stirs at dawn. His voice is hoarse. Is it tomorrow? You want to say yes. You want to say something poetic. But the truth is, it's not tomorrow. Not yet. It's just another piece of today repeating itself in different light. He rubs his eyes and looks at the girl. You tell him softly she's resting. He nods, then says, "I dreamed about snow again." You look up. The sky is pale, no clouds, no sun, just a soft, diffuse light like the world hasn't finished deciding what it wants to be. "I dreamed we were on a train," he adds, "to somewhere with snow." You nod. That sounds nice. You gather your things. A cracked sandal, the last scrap of wet cloth, the cartoon tiger page still folded in your pocket. The girl opens her eyes when you stand. "Where will you go?" she asks quietly. You hesitate, then say the river, maybe beyond, maybe the hills. She nods, then after a moment adds, "There's a temple that still stands, past the 3rd bridge. My uncle saw it yesterday. Said the bell was cracked, but the roof held. A temple, a bell, a roof. That sounds like a story worth following." You offer her your hand. She considers, then takes it. The three of you walk, past bodies and broken walls, past puddles that shimmer with strange colors, past shoes with no feet. You find a cart overturned and half buried and manage to pull it free. Your brother sits inside, too weak to walk now. You and the girl take turns pulling it. It squeaks with every turn of the wheel, a sound you grow to hate and then grow to love, because it means you're still moving. By noon you see a figure ahead, a soldier again, this one younger, less masked. He waves you down, checks your eyes, your hands, your breathing. Not too close, he warns. The water upstream is bad. You ask about the temple. He nods, still standing, people gathering there. Then his voice drops almost as if ashamed. There's a truck coming tonight. For the children. Children. You glance at your brother. The girl glances at the bundle she carries. Neither of you speak. Historians still argue whether the trucks saved more than they harmed, whether evacuation centers helped, or simply concentrated risk. But for those who had nothing else, the sound of engines meant someone somewhere still had gasoline and maps and plans. You don't know what to believe. You just know that you're not ready to stop walking. Not yet. So you follow the road. Past trees that did not survive, past shadows burned into walls, past a world that looks like it was erased mid-sentence. Your brother falls asleep in the cart. The girl hums softly, and for one brief moment it feels like a new kind of silence has settled in, not the silence of death, but the silence that comes before rebuilding. And somewhere ahead a temple bell waits, cracked, but still hanging, still capable of sound. The road curves gently west like a ribbon wrinkled by time. It doesn't follow logic anymore. What used to be intersections are now heaps of brick and glass. Telephone poles lean at odd angles, their wires tangled like abandoned string. But the bell, someone mentioned the temple bell. That cracked voice of steel still hanging, still waiting to be heard. You're not walking anymore, you're gliding. That's what it feels like, at least. The pain is numbed into something manageable, like background noise you've grown used to ignoring. Your feet obey. Your hands grip the cart's handle automatically. Your eyes, though. Your eyes keep scanning the edges of everything, searching for signs that you're still alive and not wandering through a painting of the afterlife. The girl beside you doesn't speak. She hasn't since dawn. Her jaw is clenched tight. The cloth bundle she carries, whoever it is or was or might be, is lighter now, you can tell. You try not to wonder why. Your brother stirs in the cart. Are we close? You nod, even though you have no idea. You're always close. That's the only answer you're allowed to give. You pass a torii gate, or what's left of one. The top beam lies across the ground like a fallen crossbeam, but one upright still stands, half charred, half whole. A man is kneeling in front of it, his palms pressed together, eyes shut. He doesn't move as you pass. He might be praying, or he might be dead. In this new world, it's often the same posture. You wonder what he's asking for. Forgiveness. Direction. A rewind. You want to stop beside him. A stop beside, but the cart keeps squeaking. And you don't stop now. Not until the bell. An hour later you crest a small rise, and there it is. The temple. It's not untouched, but it's there. The roof sags in the middle. Several wooden beams have blackened edges. The main gate has collapsed into a V shape like it was bowing too low, but the heart of the structure remains. And above it, swinging gently in the wind, is the bell, cracked, but whole. There are people here. Not many, maybe a dozen. Some sit along the temple steps, others in the courtyard, some half hidden beneath makeshift tarps of bedsheets and plastic. No one is talking loudly. Everything feels muffled, like you've entered a dream where sound doesn't travel the same. One woman is handing out rice balls. Another is pouring water from a salvaged kettle into chipped bowls. When they see you, their eyes flicker with the dull interest of exhaustion. Then slowly someone stands and walks toward you. A boy, maybe 15, wearing a school uniform with only one sleeve. He looks at you, then the cart, then the girl, then back at you. You came from the city center, he asks. You nod. He nods back solemn and says, then you should stay. They give you a space in the corner of the courtyard. Someone lays down a woven mat. Your brother lies on it like a dropped rag doll and immediately falls asleep. The girl sits beside him, clutching her bundle. She still hasn't let it go. You sit with your back to the temple wall, eyes fixed on the bell. It moves, only slightly, but enough to remind you that it's still hanging, still obeying gravity. You wonder when it last rang. You wonder if it will ring again. That night, someone lights incense. Not much. Just a single stick, barely fragrant. But the scent, smoke, and sweetness makes your throat tighten. It smells like ceremony, like summer festivals, like your grandmother's altar. You close your eyes, and for a brief moment the memory rises, paper lanterns bobbing above the river, their light trembling in the water, the sound of laughter, someone shouting about shaved ice, the feeling of cool grass beneath your legs. You open your eyes and the courtyard returns. But something warm lingers. Historians still argue about the significance of surviving temples. Some see them as rallying points, others as psychological anchors, places where people gathered not because they expected miracles, but because they needed walls that remembered older kinds of suffering. This temple remembers. You can feel it in the floorboards, the way they creak like they're waking up from a long dream. You can feel it in the way people sit, not talking but not crying either. Here you are, not alone in your silence. Later you hear the bell ring, just once, not loud, not commanding, just a soft, hollow chime. Someone must have struck it by hand, or perhaps it moved on its own. But that note carries through the night like a breath held too long, finally released. Your brother stirs. The girl looks up. No one speaks, because that sound was not for attention. It was for remembering, and for reminding that something still resonates. You lie down on the mat. The ground is hard but dry. The temple wall at your back is splintered but steady. You feel the presence of others nearby, not touching, not even breathing in rhythm, but there. Real. Alive. You realize you haven't cried once. Not really. Tears feel like a luxury now. But in this moment, as your brother exhales in his sleep and the girl shifts closer and the wind touches the cracked bell again, something in you loosens. A knot, perhaps. Not undone, but softened. And you sleep. And the city sleeps. And the temple dreams with you. Of better days, of lanterns, of rice harvests, of laughter, of bells that rang for weddings and not warnings. Morning again, or something like it. The sun is trying, it always tries, but the sky is still a muddy yellow-gray, stained by everything the city exhaled when it died. The light that filters through the haze doesn't feel like a beginning, it feels more like a reluctant continuation. A stage cue that didn't get the memo that the play is already over. You wake slowly, your cheek pressed to the mat, a faint ache in your hip. For a moment your body forgets where it is, and you almost roll over expecting tatami and the hum of cicadas and your father's distant snoring. But then your fingers brush dust and splintered bamboo, and your brother mumbles something in his sleep. And it comes back. All of it. The girl is still beside you. Her cloth bundle has been unwrapped, inside a small pair of shoes and a wooden toy horse. You don't ask. She doesn't explain. But she lays the objects on the mat as if they need air too. Then she stands quietly and walks toward the bell. You sit up and watch. She doesn't strike it. She just touches the metal with her fingers, gently, almost like a blessing. Someone brings you a rice ball. It's warm. Too warm to have come from a real kitchen, so it must have been in someone's shirt or hands for a while. The seaweed has torn the rice a little dry, but it's the best thing you've tasted since the world changed. You offer half to your brother. He eats it without speaking, eyes focused on the ground. Then he whispers, "I want to go home." You nod slowly. So do you. But the word home feels fictional now, like a fable, a place from someone else's story. You say, "We'll find a new one." He doesn't answer, but he doesn't argue either. Later that day, a man arrives with a bicycle. He's older, maybe 60, wearing glasses with one cracked lens, and pushing the bike by hand, its tires, sagged frame, bent pedals gone. On the back rack sits a tin box tied with fraying cloth, and beside it a radio, a real one. Everyone gathers as he props the bike against the temple steps and fiddles with the dials. The first sound is static, then more static. Then faintly a voice, crackly, unclear, but speaking. It's a newsreader. He's repeating names, a list of cities: Osaka, Kobe, Nagoya, Tokyo. The signal cuts out before you catch what it means, but just hearing the syllables, familiar names still being said aloud, sends a tremor through the group. Proof the world still has places. Historians still argue whether survivors craved information or silence more, whether knowing the truth helped or hurt. But in this moment, hearing another human voice, disembodied and official and far away, feels like someone reaching back through the fog to say, "I see you," even if they don't, even if they never will. That evening you help gather firewood. The girl comes too. The two of you wander down the path toward the edge of what used to be a garden. Charred stumps, fallen planks, one warped cooking pot lying like a broken bowl for the gods. You pick up a board. She finds a few sticks. Neither of you speaks. But the silence is companionable now. Not tense, not shy, just lived in. As you walk back, she says quietly, "I used to hate this path." You glance over. "My grandmother lived near here," she adds. "She'd make me come every weekend, to clean, to help her with tea. I thought it was so boring." You nod, unsure what to say. She smiles just a little. "Now I'd give anything to walk it again, with her, just once." You want to respond, but your throat catches. So you just say, "Yeah," and that's enough. The fire that night is small but bright. Someone managed to scavenge a kettle. You all sit in a semicircle waiting as water warms. Someone hums again an old folk song, wordless now because no one remembers the lyrics, or maybe because words feel too sharp. Steam curls into the air, and for a moment, if you squint, it almost looks like the incense smoke from festivals past. Or maybe it's a memory masquerading as steam. Either way, you let it rise. You take the first sip. It's just hot water, no tea, but you hold the cup in both hands and cradle the heat. It reminds you of snow days when your mother would pour barley tea into mismatched mugs and tell stories about fox spirits. You always pretended to be scared. She always pretended to believe you. You miss pretending. Before bed, someone hangs a paper lantern. It's barely more than a skeleton, just a frame and a scrap of paper salvaged from a torn book, but it glows. Someone placed a candle inside. Its flicker bounces against the temple wall. You lie on your mat and watch it. The girl curls beside her toy horse. Your brother finally breathes evenly. And in that final moment before sleep pulls you under, you whisper a promise to no one in particular. "I will remember this. All of it. Even the bad parts. Especially the good. And one day, if anyone ever asks, I'll tell them about the girl with the cloth bundle and the boy who dreamed of snow and the cracked bell that kept swinging just enough to remind us we were still here, still real, still trying." You dream of stairs, endless wooden stairs winding up through mist. You're climbing them barefoot, your brother behind you, the girl ahead. None of you speak. The mist is too thick. But the stairs go on forever, and with each step you feel lighter, like your body might evaporate before you reach the top. Then a sound breaks through, soft, hollow, familiar. The bell. One low note trembling through the mist like a breath held for too long, finally exhaled. You wake. The temple courtyard is pale with morning light. The paper lantern from last night has burned out, its edges curled and blackened like the edge of a memory. Most people are still asleep. But one woman is already sweeping the courtyard with a broom made of twigs. She doesn't look up, just keeps sweeping slowly, methodically, the way someone might perform a sacred ritual without realizing it. Your back aches when you sit up. Your brother is still curled on the mat, his hand loosely gripping the hem of your sleeve. The girl is gone. For a moment, panic flickers. But then you see her sitting beside the bell again, her hair loose around her shoulders, the wooden toy horse resting beside her knees. She's just watching the trees sway. Waiting, maybe. Or remembering. Breakfast is miso soup without miso. Warm water, a scrap of tofu, maybe one or two wilting scallions. You drink it anyway. Everyone does. It's amazing how quickly the body adjusts. How fast your stomach learns to say thank you for so little. As you sip, a man in a tattered army jacket approaches. He's missing 2 fingers. He smiles with the kind of practiced ease that makes you nervous. "Trucks are coming," he says. "This afternoon." They'll take anyone willing to leave, south or maybe west, wherever there's room. You nod. He moves on, repeating the same message to others. A few people look relieved. A few others look terrified. You don't know what you feel. Historians still argue about whether the trucks were a promise or a gamble. They arrived without maps, without instructions. Some led to camps with food and water. Others led nowhere. One ended up stuck on a mountainside for 3 days before help arrived. But at the time, they represented the closest thing to a plan. And people crave plans, even bad ones. You tell your brother. He just nods. He's been quieter lately, not sullen, not scared. Just quiet in that way kids sometimes are when the world has grown too loud. You find a scrap of paper and draw a bus for him. You draw smoke coming from the top and a smiling driver at the front. You write underneath, going anywhere. He smiles for the first time in days. The girl doesn't speak until mid-morning. You're packing what little you have: a strip of cloth, your cartoon tiger page, the cracked sandal, a bent spoon someone gave you. She walks up holding the toy horse and says, "I think I'll stay." You pause. She adds, "If they come here people who can't walk far, they'll need help." It makes sense. You hate that it makes sense, but you nod. She places the toy horse in your hand. For your brother. He likes animals, right? You almost refuse, almost insist she keep it. But something in her eyes says this is the goodbye she can manage. You don't ask her name. She doesn't ask yours. Names feel too heavy now, too specific. You've all become ghosts of each other. She turns before you can say thank you and walks back to the bell. You never see her again. The truck arrives after noon. It's not what you expected. No paint, no markings. Just a flatbed with wooden side rails and an old tarp nailed crooked across the top. The driver wears a military cap but no uniform. He jumps down, stretches his back and says, "Room for 20, maybe 25. First come, first packed." There's no shouting, just motion. People gathering their bags, lifting sleeping children, helping elders onto the truck bed. You carry your brother in your arms. He's light now, lighter than he should be. But he wraps his arms around your neck and says, "I'm ready." You place him near the middle beside a woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She places her hand on his shoulder without a word. You climb up beside him. The wooden slats creak under the weight. You look back toward the temple. The bell still hangs, still cracked, still still. But the wind picks up just then. And for one brief, barely audible moment, it sways. You ride through ruins, past the husks of houses and the skeletons of schools, past bridges that lead to nowhere and staircases that end in sky. The truck doesn't bounce, it lumbers. Each pothole rattles the frame. Each turn is deliberate, like the vehicle is trying not to disturb what's left of the world. Your brother sleeps. You watch. Somewhere past the city edge, you see green, real green, patches of grass untouched, a cluster of bamboo stalks, and a single absurdly defiant sunflower growing through a crack in the pavement. You laugh out loud. It startles the woman beside you. You point. She smiles too. And for a moment the truck doesn't feel like an escape. It feels like a beginning. Night falls again before the truck stops. You've arrived. Where exactly isn't clear. But there are tents, blankets, soup, people with clipboards and faces that look tired but not broken. You carry your brother to a cot beneath a canvas awning. You sit beside him. Someone hands you water. You drink. You breathe. You wait. And in your mind you hear the bell. Still swinging. Still singing. Still yours. Morning again. But this time it's different. Not because the sun is brighter, it isn't. Not because the sky is clearer, it's still the color of bruised cotton. But because the silence has changed. It's not the stunned hush of something that just ended. It's the slow quiet of something beginning again, almost imperceptibly. You wake on a real cot, thin but clean. There's a canvas flap above your head stirring in the breeze. Your brother sleeps beside you, curled into the same shape he used to when it stormed back home. His breathing is steady. You count each rise and fall like beads on a prayer rope. You've arrived somewhere. You're not sure what it's called. No one has told you yet. You heard someone mention the hills near Yamaguchi, and someone else say the army set this up a few days ago. But honestly, you don't care about names right now. You care that there is water and warmth and people who know how to make both feel real again. You sit up slowly. Your back still aches, but not as much. Your stomach still rumbles, but in a familiar way, not desperate anymore, just regular hunger. And your heart, well, it hasn't figured out what it's doing, but it's beating. That counts for something. They give you a toothbrush. Just one. It's made of bamboo with stiff bristles and no brand. You look at it like it's a sacred object. You haven't brushed your teeth in how many days? 4-6. You sit by a water barrel, dip the brush, and scrub carefully. Your brother watches you, then grabs the brush when you finish and tries to imitate you. He gags on the bristles, coughs, then laughs. That's the first sound of joy you've heard from him since before. You try not to cry. You succeed. Mostly. They hand you a form. It's not paper, it's cardboard torn from a packaging box. The writing is messy, the lines crooked. Name, age, home, city, family members, injuries, needs. You write everything in small, careful characters. Then you hesitate. Home city. You write Hiroshima, then scratch it out. Then write near Hiroshima, then scratch that out too. Finally, you just draw a circle and move on. Historians still debate how long it took for survivors to reclaim words like home. For some, it was immediate, an anchor. For others, the word was burned like everything else, its meaning turned to smoke. There's a story of a boy who refused to say home for 3 years, calling it the place I was before. Another who named every new shelter Home-3 or Home-7 like train stations. There is no single timeline for healing. But today a cardboard form asks for one, and you can't give it. That afternoon a nurse visits. She has a clipboard. She asks questions gently but directly. Are you eating any burns? Any relatives still missing? Do you remember the flash? You answer quietly. She nods. She gives you a small red booklet. It has 6 pages. It's a ration card, but also a record. A soft declaration. You exist. You are counted. She stamps the first page and writes a date you hadn't realized was today. Then she says you'll be assigned a school group, and your brother will be placed with the younger children for now. You nod. She touches your arm briefly, then leaves. The card feels heavier than it should. You tuck it into your shirt. In the late afternoon, you explore. You walk the edges of the camp. It's not large, maybe 30 tents total, a few wooden structures, one truck with its engine covered. There's a field beyond it where children chase a soccer ball made of newspaper and string. They laugh. You stand still for a long time. Then your brother runs into view, barefoot, waving a stick like a sword. You wave back. You think he's playing again. And for the first time since the sky lit up, your body feels like it belongs to the earth. There's a rumor going around that there are Americans nearby, that some of them have cameras, that they're taking photos of survivors of buildings of children. You ask someone why. He shrugs, to understand maybe, or to prove something. You don't like the sound of that, but you don't like the silence either. You sit on a rock near the edge of the camp and think about how strange the world has become. Cameras and ration cards and sunflowers growing through sidewalks. It's like someone reshuffled the deck and now all the cards are upside down. You lie on your back, you look up. The clouds move normally. That's something. That evening someone brings out a harmonica. It's old, dented. The man who plays it has a missing ear, but his fingers work and the sound he makes is tired but sweet. It's a folk tune. You can't remember the words, but your mouth moves anyway. The boy beside you hums the same line over and over. Your brother leans against your arm. Someone starts clapping in rhythm gently. The harmonica wheezes a little off-key, but no one minds, because this at last feels human. Before bed you draw again. On the back of your ration card, you sketch the bell from the temple. It's crude, lopsided, but it helps. You draw the girl too, hair down, hands on her knees, the wooden toy beside her. Then you draw your brother's face, and you try to make him smiling, just a little. You fall asleep with the pencil still in your hand, and your last thought before the dream comes is, what would it sound like if the bell rang here too? The next morning someone hands you a uniform. Not a real one, just a faded gray school smock, oversized and patched at the elbows. The fabric smells like old paper and storage trunks. A tag stitched into the collar reads, #12, no name, just the number. Wear it for class, the woman says. She doesn't smile, but she nods in that soft, matter-of-fact way adults sometimes do when they're pretending everything is normal. You hold the smock up. It's ridiculous, but you put it on anyway. Your brother's version is smaller. His has a yellow armband with a paper tag that reads, Group B. He doesn't understand it, but he likes the color. He keeps lifting the band to his mouth and blowing on it like a trumpet. You let him. Class is held in a tent. There's no chalkboard, just a crate flipped upside down to act as a teacher's desk and a few tarps laid on the ground for students to sit. The teacher is a young man with a limp. He introduces himself as Mr. Nakamura. He doesn't ask for your name. He just says you can sit in the front. That way you can see the pictures. You look around. There are maybe 10 other students, all different ages. A boy who can't stop biting his sleeves. A girl who blinks rapidly as if chasing away dust that isn't there. A tall kid with a bandage around his neck who hasn't spoken a word. Mr. Nakamura pulls out a storybook. The cover is worn. One of the corners is missing, but the picture of a rabbit carrying a giant leaf as an umbrella makes everyone lean forward. He starts reading. His voice is calm, too calm. He's probably read this story 100 times before, maybe to students who aren't here anymore. But still he reads it like it matters. You listen, and for 10 minutes nothing else exists. Historians still argue whether post-bomb schooling was education or therapy, whether teachers were instructors or caretakers. Some survivors described those first lessons as breathing spaces. Others said it was like pretending to be alive until you believed it again. What's clear is that every word read, every story shared was more than content, it was glue. And right now, you are made of glue. After class, you go searching for what you're not sure. Maybe for silence, maybe for something else. You find a pile of discarded supplies behind one of the storage sheds, scraps of fabric, rusted nails, a broken basket handle. You pocket the handle. It reminds you of the temple bell. You don't know what you'll do with it, but you want it. That's enough. Lunch is distributed in tin bowls. Some kind of barley porridge. Not sweet, not salty, just grainy. But you eat all of it. Your brother does too. Then he uses the empty bowl as a hat. You try not to laugh, but you fail. So does the gray-haired woman beside him. She claps once, a soft sound. It feels like the world rewarding you with applause just for being silly. Later, a volunteer group arrives. They come with cloth bundles, newsprint, and something magical, crayons. Real crayons. Still half wrapped in paper. Red, green, yellow, and a soft blue that looks like the sky might have looked before everything. The children crowd around. One boy grabs 3 at once. The volunteers don't stop him. They just say, use them kindly. You take 1 blue crayon and 1 green. Your brother picks yellow. He draws a sun with legs. You draw a bell, always the bell. One of the volunteers watches you. Then she kneels down and asks, is that a real bell? You nod. You don't explain. You just say it never broke. She nods too, as if she understands. Maybe she does. The radio crackles again that evening. This time there's more. A full sentence. Something about reconstruction zones and relocation applications. Something about documentation. You don't catch all of it. But one phrase sticks. We are counting everyone. It's meant to be reassuring, but it makes your stomach knot. Because being counted means being known, and being known means being remembered. And part of you isn't sure you want that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Before bed, someone sets up a projector. Where they found it, no one knows. The screen is a pale bedsheet stretched across 2 bamboo poles. The film is old, scratchy, full of dust and flickering scenes from another time. Children with backpacks, rice fields, swaying fireworks over a harbor. The whole camp gathers. Your brother falls asleep halfway through. You watch the rest. There's no story, really, just fragments. But you pretend you remember every place on screen. You whisper names under your breath like prayers. Hiroshima, train station, bell, father, home. Each word feels like stepping across a river stone in the dark. Unsteady, but still progress. The film ends with an image of a kite flying above a mountain. The reel clicks, clicks, clicks. No one moves. Finally, someone says, That mountain looks like the one near our house. You don't correct them, you just say, it really does. Then you lie down, and you wait for dreams. This time you hope they come. You wake with a start, not from a noise, but from the absence of one. The wind that usually rattles the canvas is still. The nearby murmurs the soft clatter of bowls, the scratchy whispers of someone sorting supplies all gone. It's too quiet. For a moment you think maybe you're alone, but then your brother stirs, mutters something in his sleep about dragons and candy, and rolls closer to your side. His warmth is reassuring. So is the distant clink of metal someone's cooking again, probably the rice porridge you've started to expect, if not exactly crave. You stretch. Your body feels older than it should, like it skipped ahead aging overnight while you weren't looking. Your joints are stiff, your back sore, your feet rough from walking too far on shoes that no longer cared to help. But you're awake. You're here. And your brother just drooled a little on your sleeve, which you decide means it's going to be a good day. At breakfast, the porridge is thinner. A volunteer apologizes. The shipment didn't come. You nod. Your brother slurps happily anyway. Across from you, a boy makes animal sounds into his bowl. This one's a pig, he says. This one's a duck. His impressions are terrible, but the younger children laugh like they're front row at a comedy show. Someone else starts humming a song you half remember. Something from before, maybe something played on a record player at a neighbor's house during summer. It's strange what sticks. After breakfast, a clipboard woman, everyone just calls her that, now pulls you aside. She has the same expression she always does, like she's trying to solve a math problem written in disappearing ink. She says, "There's a list." You say, "Okay." She continues, "It's for relocation schools outside the zone, safer areas, clean water, proper buildings." You nod again. Then she adds, "But we can't place families together," and that's where the nodding stops. Historians still debate the ethics of child evacuations after the bombings. Was it kinder to keep siblings together in poverty or separate them for opportunity? Some kids sent away got new clothes, real schools, and rice every day. Others cried every night for the brother they left behind. There's no spreadsheet that solves that question. You stand there staring at the clipboard, and you think, I am not a spreadsheet. They let you decide. That's the worst part. You'd rather they had told you, handed you orders, made the choice for you so you could blame someone later. But instead they say, it's up to you. You sit with your brother beneath the shade of a canvas lean-to and explain as gently as possible what it all means. He listens, then says, "Will there be crayons?" You laugh even though your chest tightens. Maybe you say, "Probably." He nods. Then he says, "Will you come after?" You say, "I'll find you." And even though you don't know if that's true, you say it like you mean it. Because sometimes lies are the closest thing to hope. You pack his things, the tiger drawing the yellow crayon stub, the toy horse the girl gave you. You write a note on the back of your ration card and fold it carefully into his bundle. You don't write a full letter, just a few sentences, short, simple, things you'd want him to know if one day he forgets the sound of your voice. He hugs you with all his might. You hug back. You carry him to the truck place, him gently beside a girl who looks about 9, and whisper to her. He likes when people talk about animals. She nods solemnly. You step away. You wave. He waves back. The truck drives off, and you are still waving long after it's turned the corner. That night you cry for the first time, not because you're scared, not because you're hurt, but because you're empty. Not the kind of empty that wants food or sleep, but the kind that makes you wonder if the person you were before is still somewhere inside you, or if they walked off in the crowd a few days ago and haven't found their way back. You sleep beneath the stars, not in a tent. You just lie on a woven mat near the edge of the camp, your head tilted toward the wide, breathless sky. You watch the stars flicker like nervous eyes. You listen to the wind move through trees you can't see. You think of the bell again, the girl, the temple, your father's cough, the bent spoon, the silent scream of light, the weight of your brother's head on your shoulder. You think all of this is mine, and somehow that makes it okay. A woman nearby sings a lullaby. Her voice is cracked and uneven, but the words are soft, like someone threading silk through smoke. It's about cranes, flying over rivers, returning home. You don't know the second verse, but you hum the melody. Because humming is enough. Because tonight there are no sirens, no warnings, just the quiet hush of people trying again. You wake up before the sun. The sky is a deep gray blue, like ink left too long in water. Not quite morning, not quite night. The kind of color that makes everything feel suspended, like the world is holding its breath just a little longer. You sit up slowly, your blanket tangled around your legs, your breath curling out in a thin mist. Someone nearby stirs, then rolls over. Somewhere in the camp, a pot lid clinks gently. The sound is soft, metallic, ordinary. You let your feet touch the earth. It's cool, damp, real. You rise, stretch, and begin to walk. No shoes, no destination, just your own quiet rhythm. Each step forward feels lighter than the last. You find yourself at the edge of the clearing where the camp thins into trees. A thin mist curls between the trunks like it's afraid to rise too high. Dew coats the leaves. Everything smells of pine earth and stillness. You sit on a low rock, wrap your arms around your knees, and watch the light change. At first it's barely noticeable, just a softening of the darkness. Then the edges of the world begin to glow. Not gold, not pink, just lighter. A man walks past behind you. He nods. He says, "Morning." You nod back, and that's it. No long conversation, no history, just two survivors of the same silence sharing a moment on the edge of something new. You think of your brother. You picture him waking up in a new bed somewhere you've never seen, surrounded by people you'll never meet. Maybe they'll give him miso soup today. Maybe they'll ask about you. You hope he says your name, even just once, even if he says it wrong. You rise, brush the dirt off your legs, and walk back toward camp. The fires are starting again. Smoke rises slowly into the waking air. A volunteer hands you a bowl of rice and salted radish. You say thank you without thinking. You eat slowly, deliberately, because you've learned that not all hunger is in the stomach. That afternoon you help dig a new latrine trench. The work is hard, the soil dense, but you find the rhythm quickly. Another girl your age works beside you. You don't speak, but she hands you a towel when you wipe your brow on your sleeve. It's a small gesture, but it makes you feel visible, whole. You hand the towel back with a nod. She smiles just barely. Later, someone arrives with books, not many. A battered crate held together with string and hope. Inside, picture books, children's readers, a few volumes of poetry, and miraculously a dictionary. You run your fingers over the cover. It's missing pages, but you hold it like it's a treasure chest. You flip to a random spot. Your finger lands on tomorrow. You close the book. You don't need to read the definition. You already understand. As evening falls, the radio sputters again. This time, the message is brief. It says, "A new school will open soon. Teachers needed. Volunteers welcome." You stand still for a moment. Then you walk to the clipboard woman and say, "I can help." She looks at you startled. Then she nods and writes your name down in a box marked tentative. Historians still argue whether survivor-led rebuilding was desperation or resilience, whether it was fair to ask the wounded to carry the bricks of their own future. But in every camp, every hill, every ruin-turned classroom, someone stepped forward. Someone said, "I'll try." And today that someone is you. That night, someone plays the harmonica again, the same song from earlier in the week. You hum along, it's off-key, but perfect. Children chase each other in slow motion through the dusk. Someone hangs a paper lantern from a branch, just one made from scavenged rice paper, and the wax stub of an old candle. You watch it sway, and for the first time in what feels like centuries, you smile without needing a reason. You smile just because you can. You sleep under the open sky. No dreams, just the slow rhythm of your breath. Just the weight of your own quiet strength. Just the memory of a bell that never fell. And somewhere in the distance, your brother dreaming of dragons and crayons and home. The stars are out now. Not bright, not shimmering with drama, just soft, sleepy specks dotting the vast canvas above. A breeze passes over your skin, light and cool like the ghost of a lullaby. You shift slightly in your blanket, the ground beneath you finally warm from the day's sun. Somewhere nearby, a low rustle of leaves, a cough, then stillness again. There's no need to think anymore. Not about tomorrow or names or questions without answers. All of that can wait. For now you are wrapped in silence, a silence that doesn't hurt, a silence that holds you, cradles you gently, and says, "You made it through today. That's all you had to do." The lantern sways in the breeze again, its small light casting a slow dance across the dirt. The shadows it makes are long, gentle things like arms stretching to cover the tired ground in comfort. You close your eyes and the last sound you hear is laughter, someone's, maybe yours, maybe remembered. It doesn't matter. You are safe for this moment. And sometimes one moment is enough. Now breathe in and let it out slowly. Feel your body soften. Feel the weight slip away. You did enough. You are enough. Sleep well.